Welcome back, guys, to Pirate Talk Radio. This is episode 133. I hope things have been going well with everyone. You can probably hear my voice that I'm a little under the weather, and the reason the delay of this episode is quite simply, I was in the gym about a week ago, and I was doing some lifts that I'm very much used to. The weight was very much, and I felt a little pop in my back. And though it didn't hurt immediately, right then, very soon after, a couple minutes later, got a really, really bad pain that went from pretty much the side of my head, top of my head, all the way down my leg. So I knew I had pulled something. Was hoping it wasn't too major, and it turned out to be not. I just needed to recover a little bit, but pretty much took me out of commission for almost a week. I did do a live stream, which nearly killed me sitting for that long. And then obviously my day job is a lot of sitting. So, sitting hurt a lot. I could barely turn my head. Sitting hurt. It was bad, but I'm feeling much better now as far as that pain has completely gone away. Took some time off from the gym in the past week, just to again let the body heal, and was back in the gym yesterday. Felt really good. No pain. Been getting good sleep. So I feel like as far as the physical pain, that I'm back to pretty close to 100%, or as 100% as a person my age, and the amount of damage that I've done to my body over the years can be. But definitely still under the weather. A lot of allergies and sinus issues the past month. So struggling still on that, but that doesn't stop me from being able to sit and record. But that's why this episode's been a little bit late, and I apologize for that. Get back on a schedule, and then it gets broken because I get broken. So that's just the life of trying to get healthy so late in life. You end up hurting yourself. Just happens. But it wasn't major, which was good. That was good. So, but we got a lot of things to talk about in the Sea of Thieves world. Lots of things have happened since our last episode. I was able to take part in a couple events. Got some really great news from Fest of Legends. So I hope folks are getting your tickets. There's not too many left. So I hope you're getting your tickets for that. But we'll get over. We'll cover all that stuff. Along with the Xbox Showcase. Though for the Sea of Thieves side, the Xbox Showcase wasn't too exciting, I would say. It was a really cool trailer, but we already knew all that stuff was coming. So we'll kind of dive into this. Got some things that I want to chat about, and maybe at the end of this episode, depending on how the Sea of Thieves talk goes, we'll start our first talk about a real-life pirate that many of you have probably heard the name of, and kind of give you a little bit of history on them. As I mentioned, that's something I want to start to do, especially during times when Sea of Thieves news is a little bit down. Is start to take you guys on a journey through history, as far as the pirates that inspire. Obviously the game of Sea of Thieves, Mike Chapman has been very, very vocal about his love of the golden age of piracy. They have they did their podcast on a ship, over there in the UK, and talked about how they came to the ship in the UK, and kind of inspired them to make the galleon and stuff inside Sea of Thieves. So obviously, as we know from Mike, that the golden age of piracy has not hit in Sea of Thieves yet. So lots still to come. Obviously, how the Sea of Thieves world plays into the outside world, because remember, Sea of Thieves does take part in our outside world. It's just clouded by the veil, and so that's why the inspiration's there. And I think they've done an okay job as far as the ships and things like that. I think obviously the hit reg, as we call it, very accurate to the weapons of the day. Not fun as far as a gameplay experience and a gameplay loop, but because we want our weapons to hit, but that kind of stuff. So I do want to start talking about some of that history of piracy, and kind of give you guys some background on some of the most notorious and maybe some unknown pirates in history that are actually kind of cool. So we'll get to that if we have time. If not, we'll start talking about pirate history on the next episode. So let's start off with a couple events that I took part in. So first off, Race of Legends. I'm sure many of you have heard of Race of Legends with Dread Pirate Doug. They have branched off and have done another type of competitive Sea of Thieves event that anyone can enter. Now, this one particularly was focused around streamers, as we were trying to raise money for Festive Legends and helping to have some money to get the creators here. And the hospitality and travel costs of some of the creators. And so we took part in Song of Legends, and it was, as you kind of hear by the name, it was based around the skull of Siren Song Voyage, and I was invited and had a great time doing so. I was one of the color commentators or shoutcasters, if you will, with my good friend and Keel Hall podcast host, Captain Logan. We had a lot of fun. I think Doug was happy with what we did, so hopefully you'll see us again or hear us again on future Song of Legends events, and maybe even Race of Legends would be really cool. I know Race of Legends has been going on for so long, and they have a good format, but Doug handles so much in that event, and I think that was nice as far as the Song of Siren or the Song of Legends. He was actually able to hand off the shoutcasting duties and kind of focus on the administration. I think that really helped him out. I hope it did. So hopefully we'll be able to get on the microphones again and do a little color commentary for some of his future events. Because like I said, I had a lot of fun doing it. We got a good reception from the viewers on excuse me, on Twitch, and hope to do it again. But the concept of the entire competition was, it was on Race of Legends has the access to the private servers. So it was on a private server. They were able to control some of the chaos, if it was. We had a boat that was a camera boat, and then we had 5 dual sloop boats that were all captained and crewed by streamers. And people could throw in money to help support Festive Legends, and that money could go to ways to mess with the crews. Maybe they had to stop what they're doing and play a song. Maybe they had to stop what they're doing, eat a banana. They had to stop what they're doing and go change to throwing knives or something. But the audience really dove in and made some really interesting, fun things right in the middle of some crazy battles. Oh, you're not allowed to bucket now. Oh, you sunk. So it was the crowd really had a good time with that. Really messed with the crews, which was really fun. And any sort of paid for trolling of any of the crews, it affected all crews. So you couldn't just pick on one crew for one reason or another. It did affect all crews. So all crews got the same troll, if you will, at the same time. So it was really fun. Absolutely blast. It was very competitive. Some of the battles that we saw was absolutely amazing. And basically, what you had to do was complete a song of Siren Song Voyage. That's what you had to do. The voyage was up. Crews had time to. They had base supplies. So once the 3, 2, 1 go command started, all the ships sailed away, and you basically got to choose how you wanted to attack this particular voyage. Obviously, the crew that turns in the skull to Briggsy wins. So did you take time to get supplies? Did you immediately go and get one of the pieces? Lots of mental games and a lot of things that went into how to attack that voyage from the different crews. And it was just fascinating to me that both games, they played them twice. Both games, the same crew actually stole the pieces they needed for the Siren Song voyage, and instead of waiting, they just cursed their ship and went for the win. Unfortunately, on the first go, The team lost the skull right at the end on the island. It was a massive, massive fight between all the crews trying to get the skull to Briggsy. The main crew who had stole all the pieces had got to the island, and I put it in quotes first because based on what it looked like, they were going to easily win. They were just going to sail away with it. And no joke, they get on that island and there were crew members everywhere. I don't know if people fired off and swam over. I don't know if there were rowboats involved. I don't know if there were, hey, I'm going to go get on the island and wait. I'm not 100% sure where all those folks came from because based on the map, it did not look like the boats were that close to contest. And as soon as that skull hit that island, people were popping. I called them bush Wookiees. People were popping out of the bushes, and it was just an all-out war for the ending. The second game, same kind of thing happened, a little bit different, a little bit more naval, a little bit more boarding happened before we got that final fight for the skull. Same team stole all the pieces, and when I say stole all the pieces, they were able to get one of them themselves. And one time they boarded, grabbed the chest, and just jumped off and swam. Another time there was a harpoon play. It was absolutely fantastic seeing all the great skills being showcased there. Different weapon sets. Some people were using double guns. Some people were using swords, throwing knives, it was all over the place. It was great. And the crew that got there again first, huge fight at the end. Someone had pre-placed kegs and slightly buried them so they could still explode, which did almost work. It actually killed the skull carrier, but their partner was right there with enough health to pick up the skull and turn it in. It was a race to the finish on both, and it was absolutely just nonstop action. It was a great event. I had a lot of fun doing the commentary on it, and I hope to be able to do it again because just seeing the skill. I mean, I play Sea of Thieves to have fun with friends, to have an adventure, to enjoy a pirate world, but some of these folks who are former NAL, Race of Legends folks, competitive players, you start to see some crazy stuff out there and some really good play across the board. And it was just an absolute privilege to be able to voice that and talk to them. So great event. Again, kudos to Race of Legends and its staff. Kudos to Dread Pirate Doug for this amazing event and idea. And I hope to be able to take part and see that in the future. If you do want to check out the VOD and watch it, obviously, any of the streamers who took part, I'm pretty sure if you have a favorite streamer that took part, you probably already watched their perspective. But you can also go over to Dread Pirate Doug's Twitch channel, and you can see the VOD of the entire event there with me and Logan on commentary, adding our special comedy relief and commentary to that. So very excited. Had a lot of fun with that. Festive Legends. If you've been living under a rock, or you didn't go to the Siren Song competition, Song of Legends, there's a few things that were announced. Also on Twitter, they were announced. On social media, they were announced. But the first big one is Saturday of Festive Legends. There will be a panel, and that panel will be hosted by Hitbo. If you don't know who Hitbo is, again, I'm sorry you're living under a rock. Amazing content creator, Athena chest stealer of Legends, just a great dude. He will be hosting a panel of Rare. So we will have a digital panel of Rare at Festive Legends where you in attendance can ask questions. This will not be live streamed. So if you do want to take part in this event, you will need to be in Columbus, Ohio. You will need to have tickets to Festive Legends. They did release single day passes for that Saturday for folks who might only be able to come for one day in order to enjoy the Rare panel. But the panel will consist of Mike Chapman, Shelly Preston, and Andrew Preston. So 3 really big names and huge impact players over at Rare on the Sea of Thieves team. They will be joining us digitally, remotely, and we will be able to do a panel with them for everyone in attendance can get their questions answered from the team at Rare. And again, hosted by Hitbo. So super excited to sit through that. Super excited to see through that. And there's also another announcement that really wasn't public and big hoopla because I'm not one of those people, but your host and your master of ceremonies for Fest of Legends 2024 will be me. It will be me. So I will be on the microphone throughout the entire event, talking to panelists, hyping up the crowd, talking to the crowd, probably doing some shoutcasting, talking about the vendors, just having a good time. We have an after party that we'll be doing. So if you are coming to Festive Legends, if you are on the fence, I hope those, at least the rare panel. I mean, if you want to come see me, I appreciate that. But at least the rare panel, I hope really gets folks excited about it, gets those tickets sold, and we have a really big gathering of Sea of Thieves community people here in Columbus, Ohio. So hopefully that'll happen. But yes, I will be the host and master of ceremonies for Festive Legends this year, and I'm super excited to be taking part in that event and being able to talk to everyone and hopefully have some jokes. If you've watched my Twitch streams before, we'll be doing some toasts. Some toasts will be going on. Now, I can't promise the toasts that we will be doing will be the dirty ones that I do on stream. But maybe if you're coming to the after party, maybe some of the dirty toast might come out there. But we also, at the after party, we've got a little karaoke time. And maybe someone can buy me a drink and get me to do Shove It Home. So again, if you've watched my live streams, you know what that is. And it's hilarious, awkward, and, yeah. So there you go. So I hope to see everyone out at Festive Legends 2024. And again, if you're coming out, please do come say hello to me, because I like when people come say hello. I will have a little book with me that you can write your name in it, so that way I can remember that you came and talked to me, and I'll have a little record of everyone that I saw and met at Festive Legends. Extra Life, my Extra Life guild will have a table. We'll have some Sea of Thieves stuff there. We'll be raising money for Nationwide Children's Hospital, the Children's Hospital here in Columbus, where all the money raised will go there. There will be a large raffle going on the entire weekend to help the Parkinson's Foundation, I believe was what Doug told me it was this year. So lots of great causes, amazing vendors coming that do a great Sea of Thieves art and alterations and little trinkets and things like that. So lots of really cool stuff. Super excited. The venue is really nice. There's an on-site hotel for, and there's discounted pricing for that. So definitely going to be a great weekend. Make sure you get your tickets. Make sure you get your after party tickets if you want to come to that. And let's just have a blast. Let's have a fun time celebrating the joys, the fun, the frustrations, everything Sea of Thieves, specifically the community. And speaking of the community, Rare will be doing Community Weekend this weekend. If you're listening to this show before Saturday, it'll be this weekend, June 15th through the 17th. We will have Community Weekend, and they have released that you will get a free emote along with the Community Day flag. So we'll have I don't remember if they're calling the Community Weekend flag or the Community Day flag. Doesn't matter. It's a full weekend. That one time they did the full weekend, it went off without a hitch. A lot of fun. People gave them really positive feedback. And so we're going to continue to do the weekend funness. So super excited to be streaming this weekend. I'll have my normal crew out there. So make sure on Saturday you come over to twitch.tv/Davrim. Or if you're not already subscribed to Pirate Talk Radio on YouTube, it'll also be live streamed there. So all my live streams are on both channels. Please do drop a follow. Please do hit the subscribe, like, comment, whatever all the things are. Just hit the buttons. But I'll be doing at least a 4, if not a 5-hour stream on Saturday. Might play a little bit on Sunday. Don't know if I'll be playing Sea of Thieves. But might play a little bit on Sunday. Just depends on, because I was basically down and out for a week, how much housework and things like that I can get done. But will be a great time. Definitely on Saturday. Come check us out. We'll have a lot of fun for the community weekend. Few other things that you can collect yourself right now. If you are a Game Pass member, you get the Game Pass perks. And until June 22nd, you can get the Ebon Flintlock pack. And what that is it gets you the Ebon Flintlock, which, in my opinion, is the best flintlock in the game. One, it's colored to like my colors, green and black. Two, it has an iron sight, and three, it's hard to get. Like the fact that it's on perks is kind of cool. It's been a Twitch drop before. It was a drop, I think, on Beam or Mixer back in the day, but not an easy weapon to come by, and it's probably one of the best pistols out there. It just looks really nice. You'll also be able to get the tankard, the obsidian tankard, and the obsidian flag. So those three items right now are yours if you are a Game Pass perks or a Game Pass Ultimate subscriber. You can go to the perks page from Game Pass and claim that for free. Also, from June 10th, I'm not sure how long this goes. It might already be over, to be honest. I don't know. You were able to claim a few things for playing Sea of Thieves for 4 hours. So the long list, it is a long list. The King Ransom's Crown, the Portrait Emote, the Wrecker Fishing Rod, the Double Point Emote, the Shrouded Ghost Blunderbuss, and the Hero Landing Emote. So if those just mystically appear in your chest, it's because you played Sea of Thieves for at least 4 hours during this event. And again, I have June 10th written down there. It wasn't a one-day event, I don't believe. And I can't remember if June 10th is when it started or stopped. I should have made that note. I apologize. But a couple cool free perks that you can get out there just by playing the game or by having Game Pass Ultimate. So we had a Sea of Thieves news as well happen, I think, right after we recorded the last episode. And Drew Stevens was able to talk about a few things since the Season 12 launch. The first thing that he acknowledged was the game stability is not in a good place right now. They've done a couple hot fixes. They've got some things resolved. It's still not great. And they're continuing to work on that. And honestly, he said he's getting frustrated and the studio's getting frustrated because ultimately their game stability has become, and this is his quote, not mine. Our game stability has become a major meme in the Sea of Thieves community, and Rare is committed to change that. So we've talked on this show a lot. I've ranted about it. I've yelled about it. I've criticized. They're just not good at pushing out an update. One, that's not super flawed, but two, that doesn't break things that they've had resolved in the future. We've had situations where the servers are brilliant. The servers are great. The servers are stable. And then an update comes through and everything is just chaos, ping times, rubber banding. It's just bad. And ultimately, if you don't put as much content out there, people complain. But people complain louder if the game is not playable or it's in a bad state server stability wise. So, yes, Drew, you're absolutely right. Your server stability has become a ginormous meme in our community, and I'm glad that Rare is basically just saying the truth on this. You know, they're coming right out. Drew is great at delivering these Sea of Thieves news. And he comes right out and he's like, yeah, we're a meme right now, and we've got to change that. And he's absolutely correct. And I'm anxious to see what they do to continue to better the server, and more so what they do to make sure this doesn't happen in the future, right? That's the big one. It's good to get things corrected. That is great. However, you also want to make sure it doesn't happen again, right? You don't want to repeat the same mistakes. And I'm sure the server stability isn't the exact same mistake every single time. But at the end of the day, server stability is a mistake. So regardless if it happens when you add a new world event, add a new adventure, add a new series of tall tales, or make adjustments to weapon balance, if you hurt your server stability, you're making the same mistake. It just might be in a different section of code. So really ensuring that when these updates come out, that we don't have really bad server performance. I think should be Rare's top priority on this. So Drew, like I said, he said it out there. He said they're not doing a good job about it and they need to change that. And I hope that they do. It's been a long time. I'm still have a little hope in me and my realistic mindset that they'll actually figure it out one of these days. But my realistic mindset says they won't, but we'll see. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for them to figure it out. But what I'm not has nothing to do with hope, has everything to do with thank yous. And their stability is unwavering and amazing. And that is the patrons that throw their hard earned doubloons, cash, charge cards, blank checks at me, make me feel very humbled every single month. And that is Elcute, iGeffus, Big Bad Pad, and Skamelt666 are this month's patrons. Thank you so much, you guys. I really, really appreciate it. Your support every single month really keeps me going. It really shows that, there's folks out there that really enjoy my content, even though it's, one episode a week right now and one stream a week. It really shows that you guys value that content and are having a good time consuming it. So again, I appreciate that support. And please do continue to give me feedback. Obviously, the patrons in the Discord have special titles, and they can message me, and many of them are already in the guild inside of Sea of Thieves. So they can message me anytime they want, and I will get back to them as soon as I can. But the patrons kind of have a direct line to me, right? They can message me and stuff like that if they're in the Discord. Quick access to me, because for most people, if they're in the Discord, they're never going to see me online. And that's true, because I get a lot of spam and a lot of just ridiculous messages in my DMs for Discord. So usually I show offline because that reduces them. But the patrons know they can always message me and I'll get back to them as soon as possible, even if I'm showing offline. But guys, thank you very much. And if you are interested in joining the notorious, the illustrious, the amazing patrons of the content and of Pirate Talk Radio, go over to patreon.com/DavrimTV, and all the subscriptions are there. They start as low as $1 a month, and all that money goes to, helping. Obviously, I've got hotel costs, travel costs for Festive Legends, and things like that. All that money goes to a pot that helps me if I need new microphones, new cables, my camera goes out, anything like that. That's where that money goes to. I don't take that money and spend it on myself as far as, a new video game or anything like that. It goes in its own little account, and it's specifically used for anything that I need to do revolving around content. Okay, so back to Drew Stevens. Another thing that was mentioned is ship speed. Right? Ship speed. Now, you may be saying, well, what's wrong with ship speed? Well, there's a lot of things wrong with ship speed. Namely, they don't do what they're supposed to do. And that is, by default, the sloop is supposed to be the fastest against the wind. So the wind is blowing against you. It's not got wind in your sails at all. You have a flat sail, and you're sailing into the wind. It's supposed to be the fastest. The brig should be the fastest in like crosswind, and the galleon should be the fastest in full wind. So that's all the sails are billowed. Crosswind across the ship, sails to left or right. That's when the brig should be fastest, and the sloop should be fastest against the wind. That's how it's originally designed. With all the changes, with all the updates, we don't see that. That is not the experience that players are having right now. And Drew admitted that this needs to be looked at. So the plan is, according to him, is in an upcoming update, they're going to buff the speeds of the sloop and the galleon in their particular realms. And they're going to nerf the speeds of the brigantine in the realms where the other two should be superior. So against the wind, the brig should be slower than the sloop. In full wind, it should be slower than the galleon. And, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully, and once that gets implemented, hopefully we will be able to see what was actually originally in the game as far as how ships moved and the ships that are best in these particular environments. Now, I know for a long time the brig has been the overpowered beast out there as far as speed. So I'm anxious to see how the player feedback comes back as the brig kind of falls back to where it's supposed to be. I'm hoping that it won't be too much negative from players, because it is returning us to what the game is supposed to be. The ship speeds where they are right now was never intended, and it just kind of got to that point. So I'm hoping the feedback will be positive from the community. Obviously, there's going to be some naysayers, but I'm hoping that the feedback will be positive, getting the ships back to where it is, so it feels more fair. It doesn't feel good when you're already disadvantaged on a sloop 3-1 or 3-2 against a brig, or if you're a solo player, 3-1. And so you're trying to get a tactical advantage, getting some distance, and then re-engaging in the fight. And you can't get any distance because the brig outspeeds you into the wind. It just doesn't feel good. It just doesn't. So I'm glad they're looking at this, and I hope that that we get that update in as soon as possible. The other thing that has been released, and I encourage you all to go listen to it unless you want to wait for my commentary on it. But I believe just yesterday or the day before, at the time of this recording, the new Sea of Thieves podcast, the official podcast, was released. So, and it was right after the Xbox showcase. I have not watched it yet. I've not listened to it yet. That will be for next episode. We'll go over that. So if you want to ahead of time, listen to it, or just wait for me, because I'll take all the notes and give you all the high level feedback and all the news that came out of that, and my commentary on anything that anyone at Rare has to say about the game. My guess is they're going to be focused around the Xbox showcase and the announcement that happened there, which, again, to be fair, as I mentioned in the beginning, it wasn't an announcement that's something new like Monkey Island or Pirates of the Caribbean. It wasn't anything like that, right? They just announced season 13. They did give us a release date in on it. I believe it's July. And it just was a cool, really nice, energetic trailer, having Flameheart burst out of his casket, showing off the new burning blade and that event. And that's really all it is, which we knew that was coming. We knew that the burning blade was going to be a new world event for us to play with, a new ship for us to take over and play with. So it wasn't anything new as far as new content or anything like that. It was just showing off, and again, trying to get some players excited that might have stepped away from Sea of Thieves, give them something to get excited about and come back in. Again, Sea of Thieves is one of the the flagship games for Xbox. So anytime we have a showcase, regardless if it's going to be new content or just a hype video for content that we already know is coming, Sea of Thieves is going to be at the Xbox showcase in some way, shape, or form. So again, it looks really cool. The Burning Blade looks really awesome. It looks like it's going to be a fun event. It was nice to see Flameheart burst out of his coffin, because we've been waiting for his return for a very long time. Ever since the releasing him into the sky, the shit talking ghost above an island that we had, and then all the adventures that we did in order to resurrect him with Stitcher's Sorrow and things like that. So it's good to finally see that story moving again. It's good to see that we're going to see the big bad of Sea of Thieves come out of the coffin and start to try to take over, and see what type of exciting and fun shenanigans we can get into, as maybe you're going to choose to help Flameheart. Maybe you're going to choose to fight him. Who knows? It feels like you can really choose here by doing the relics, turning them into the forts, the new Skelly forts that will be popping up for these particular turn-ins, fighting along skeletons on the Burning Blade and dominating the seas. So it'll be exciting to see what sides people choose and how much fun they have with this new ginormous warship that will be floating around the Sea of Thieves. So super excited for that. But again, nothing new was announced at the Xbox show. All right, so that's what I had to cover Sea of Thieves news wise. So let's talk, and I could do our pirate story. I could do our pirate story. So in the golden age of piracy, everyone knows the names of Blackbeard, right? That's a famous name, and we will talk about Blackbeard in a future episode because there's been a lot of TV shows, there's been a lot of um, renditions of Blackbeard, but Blackbeard was a real person, right? He was a real person. His name was Edward Teach. He was a real person. He was Blackbeard. He had a lot of issues, but he did a lot of good things too as a pirate. So we'll talk about that in a future one. But another name that's synonymous to piracy, but a name that not everyone understands her story, and that is Anne Bonny. So Anne Bonny has also been portrayed in TV shows and movies. More specifically, if you ever watch the TV show Black Sails, amazing actress plays Anne Bonny in Black Sails and does a very good job of portraying Anne Bonny as she was, or as we know about her. There's again a woman in history that she didn't come from nothing, and we'll talk about that, but a woman whose name people recognize. But in all honesty, we don't know a whole lot about Anne Bonny. We know some things, but we don't know a whole lot. In fact, we don't even know when she died. We don't even know where she's buried. That information is lost to history. We have speculation. We've got some records out there, but Anne was a very common name back then. So it's very difficult to actually find out information aside from what was written down either by ship ledgers or local people in the government and stuff like that. But we do know a little bit about Anne Bonny that paints a really nice story because in this time period, women were not pirates. They were not allowed to be sailors. They were not allowed to be pirates. They were not allowed to be in a workforce, if you will, that is a man's workforce, right? Back then, women, what were they expect to do? Take care of the kids, take care of the house, right? The men go out and do all the stuff. The women stay behind and take care of the house, take care of the kids. That's how it was back then. But on occasion, just like today, we have rebels in the system. And Anne Bonny was no exception to that. So Anne Bonny was born of a wealthy, filthy, wealthy lawyer and his mistress. So not his wife. So he did the deed with a maid, his mistress as it became, and Anne Bonny pops out. So Anne was not a legitimate child of this, as it were back then, of this man because it was outside of wedlock. So back then, this would be an illegitimate child or a bastard, if you will. And she was born in Ireland. So she was not over in the United States or what is later known as the United States. She was born in Ireland. And because of this getting out, this wealthy lawyer's infidelity got out, they weren't able to stay in Ireland. It was kind of a bad stain on the family name because he continued to live with both his wife and his mistress, and obviously Anne was there as well. So because of this, they left. They left Ireland and they came to what was known as the New World, or what is futurely the United States. And they landed in what was then called Charlestown, or today Charleston, South Carolina. So Charlestown, South Carolina, one of the largest kind of New World trading post colony areas of this new world, of the what is later the 13 colonies and then future state, the United States. Charlestown, or Charleston, South Carolina, was one of the meccas over here, just like Boston was. Just a massive trade port where ships were coming in and out. And the thing with Charlestown is, or Charleston, we're going to call it Charleston so I don't have to keep saying Charlestown. But what it is with Charleston is Boston was way up north, right? Boston is way up north along the coast. Different weather up there. A lot of ships go in and out of there. They had a pirate problem. They definitely had a pirate problem up there, but it was relatively controlled, and it was used more as a fear tactic than it was that they worked pretty much hand in hand with the government up there, just to kind of add a fear tactic in order to get prices of goods, right? Oh, we keep these pirates at bay so you can trade your goods. So you're going to have to pay, you're going to have to get a little less because we're going to take a little off the top in order for you to understand that your goods were safely transported here to the bay, and the pirates out there in the bay didn't mess with you, right? It was a really interesting situation. But when we're talking about Charleston, it's much more south, right? We are getting closer to the Bahamas. Why is that important? Well, the Bahamas, that was the golden age of piracy, specifically the Pirate Republic of Nassau, right? A area where pirates ruled, right? There was a governor. Back then, Nassau was known as New Providence Island. There was a governor, a British governor of New Providence Island, but at times that governor had zero power because that's where all the pirates were. And you're not going to assert yourself over a bunch of bloodthirsty pirates and do things that they don't want you to do. But the idea was the pirates could bring their goods there or bring their goods around, and they could sell it to the government, and then the government would give them money. They would then resell it at a higher cost to some other portion of the world. So pirates, yes, they would steal for themselves, but also they would steal, like, let's take example in Sea of Thieves, the Merchant Alliance, right? You're not going out and stealing stuff. You're giving it to the Merchant Alliance. Well, merchant, those are sellers. Those are people who are going to sell, and they're going to go take it and sell it for a higher price. That's the whole concept that really got these pirates going. Is you would go out, target a ship, you would get their shipment, you would come back to wherever port, usually New Providence Island, you would sell it, and then they would resell it at a higher value. They would make a profit, you would make money, and you keep going out there and pirating. Same thing happened in Charleston, just a little bit less because there was a little bit more British control there. Same thing happened in Boston, although there was a lot more British control there, and they used the pirate threat more to make more money than they did in the traditional sense. So Anne Bonny's family arrived in Charleston, South Carolina, and unfortunately, her mother died of typhoid fever. And Anne was only 13 years old at that. Back then, obviously, arranged marriages were really big, and her father had arranged her to be married. And she didn't like this idea. She wanted to be free. She wanted to go out on adventures, which is not the thing that women were to do back then. But Anne was a different breed and really wanted to get out there and hit the waves or do something adventurous and not just stay home and be married and take care of a kid. So she rejected the man that was arranged to marry her, and instead she eloped or ran off with a sailor. And that sailor's name was John Bonny, hence the last name Bonny, or the surname Bonny if you're more proper. And where did they go? John had a ship. He was a sailor. Anne wanted adventure. They got on the ship and they sailed from Charleston Harbor all the way down to the Bahamas to New Providence Island, or Nassau, the great pirate republic of the Golden Age. And Anne started to see a world where women weren't necessarily just stay at home. Women had a little bit more power there. You know, they okay, when I say power, right? I say they had money. There were okay. Just be honest. Prostitution. There were pirates. The men pirates go out to sea. They're sometimes out there for a long time. They come back to port. They have this haul of stuff. They're going to get paid for it. What do they want to do? They want to drink and they want to have sex. So women were making a decent amount of money here at New Providence Island because they worked in the prostitution market, right? There were inns and businesses that you came in, you paid your lady, and you got your rocks off, right? So the fact that women were making money there and they weren't beholden to men necessarily as far as marriage were concerned, this started that drive for Anne to have more and more adventure. So John Bonny, Anne's husband, was hired by the New Providence British, mind you, Governor Woodes Rogers. And if you've watched the Black Sails, Woodes Rogers is in there. They do a really good job of representing him. However, the timetables are a little bit off because, again, it was for Hollywood, right? It was for a TV show, Woodes Rogers was already there when Anne Bonny arrived. And that's not how it happened in the TV show. But John Bonny was contracted to the governor, Woodes Rogers, and he was hired to provide Woodes Rogers with intel on pirates so that Woodes Rogers could shut down the operation of piracy. Because here's the deal. Those governors profited on the pirates. However, when word gets back to the King of England or the Queen of England, whoever's on the throne, that the governor of one of their provinces is working with pirates, or any of their investors over in London hear that the governor is working with pirates, that's a black stain on them, right? So it happened, but the governors had to show face that they don't like the pirates. They don't know these pirates aren't good people. We hang them, we kill them. Well, yeah, you do, but you do it for show on occasion, and you kind of pick off the big leaders every so often. But you still wanted the pirates there because you could charge more for your goods, and they brought you goods. So there was a double-edged sword there that the game that the governors played down there. But John was providing intel to Governor Rogers. Unfortunately, Anne didn't like this very much. She didn't like this idea of being employed by this well-to-do, richity-rich governor to get a leg up on these free men out there making a living as pirates. So what does she do? She's married to this guy. What does she do? She comes across a pirate in New Providence Island. And the name might not sound familiar to you, unless, again, you've watched the Black Sails TV show. She comes across a pirate captain by the name of Jack Rackham, also known in history as Calico Jack. Now, you might not know anything about Calico Jack, and he'll be another character that we cover here. You might know nothing about Jack Rackham. You might not know those names, but you do know his symbol. The Jolly Roger, the classic black flag with skull and the cross, right? The Jolly Roger was the colors designed for the pirate ship that Jack Rackham sailed. So though you may not know Calico Jack and his story, you may not know Jack Rackham, you do know the Jolly Roger because we see it everywhere. We see it in Sea of Thieves. We see it in all the pirate movies. The classic skull and crossbones with the on the black. That is Jack Rackham's colors when he was a pirate. So you do know that one. So you know a little bit about Mr. Rackham. So she comes across Jack Rackham, and she's excited because, one, she kind of fancies Jack Rackham, attractive guy, but he's a pirate captain, and this is her in. She thought that her husband, John, was going to come down to New Providence Island. They were going to be pirates together. But instead, John sold out to the government. And so now she's got eyes for Mr. Rackham, who is a pirate. This might be her way in. So her and Jack start seeing each other, even though she's still married, mind you. She's still married. Jack and Anne start to see each other. And they want to get married. Well, back in the day, women were honestly considered property of their husband. So, what do you do when you want property from someone else? You make them an offer. So, Jack Rackham offered to buy Anne Bonny, which basically means in this day, Jack would put a whole bunch of money on the table. If it was accepted, a divorce would happen, and it was basically Jack buys Anne, and Anne, then can marry Jack. And it was, modern society very different, but, yeah, that's how it was back then. John, however, refused Jack Rackham's offer, and said, no, he's not going to sell his wife. No, absolutely not. So, what does Anne do? She just runs off with Jack. Just like she did with John in the beginning to get away from Charleston. She just runs off with Jack. And they stole a ship. And they got a crew together. And they began their life of piracy. Now, this is where it's weird. How could a woman be a pirate? Women aren't allowed to sail. Women aren't allowed to be out there. It's bad luck to have a woman on a ship, especially a pirate ship. So, how did this happen? Well, here's how it happened. So, Anne was a Spitfire. And there's a story that circulated about Anne, which gave her respect amongst the crew. And that was, she don't take shit from no man. As you can see, she refused the first man from arranged marriage. She ran off with another man, and now she's ran off from her husband with another. She don't take shit from man. If Anne's not getting what she wants, she's going to take it on herself to do whatever she wants. And there was a story that circulated about Anne that when she was younger, someone tried to rape her. And she put that man in a hospital because she's feisty and she kicks ass. So that put a certain amount of respect, but also fear amongst other people who knew that story, that you don't mess with Anne Bonny. If Anne Bonny wants to mess with you, that's fine. And, you can have your fun with Anne. But if she doesn't like you, you don't mess with Anne Bonny because she will literally kick your ass or kill you. She was bloodthirsty. She was a pirate through and through, and it started at a very young age when, again, the story goes that someone tried to rape her and she put them in a hospital, nearly killed them. So how did she dress? Well, most of the time on the crew, they knew it was a woman, but she did put a bandana on her hat or on her head and kind of pulled up her hair a little bit. And if you ever again watch Black Sails, they do a pretty good representation with her jackets and her pants and her boots and everything. That, if you didn't see her long hair coming out from behind her hat, she could pass as a boy or a male on the ship. Obviously, if she talked, it would be a little different story. But the bandana, even though today we see it, Jack Sparrow had the bandana in the TV show. We see it in Pirates all the time, bandana. That was not a typical thing back then on a pirate ship. But people didn't really wear bandanas. So Anne would use the bandana to hold her hair up, and it was a very classic pirate look today. But back then, it was definitely rare to see pirates with bandanas around their head. So partially she would hide her identity. More specifically, she would hide her identity and look more manly when they would attack another vessel. When she was on her own ship with her own crew, she wouldn't really hide her identity too much. Everyone knew who she was. They understand that her and the captain were together. They understood all of that. But when she attacked another crew, she did kind of dress more manly. The other piece to this is there's another reason people were okay with Anne Bonny on their ship. Not only was she bloodthirsty, not only was she violent, she was also a whore. So Jack Rackham did not keep Anne Bonny to himself as the captain and being with her in whatever weird little relationship that they had. Anne was free to entertain the crew as much as she wanted. So yes, she was also kind of the whore of the boat. But again, it was all her choice. That's the thing. These weren't situations of rape or anything like that. Anne was free. Anne got to do and make her own choices all she wanted. If she wanted to go sleep with another crew member, she had the right to go sleep with another crew member. And she could. It was a very different dynamic than what society back then is used to. Society today is used to, kind of. But yeah, Anne was free. That's what she wanted. That's what she wanted more than anything, was that freedom to be her own person, and not beholden to a man, right? That's what she wanted. So Jack and Anne were plundering the Bahamas for less than a year before, unfortunately, Woodes Rogers was able to catch them. And it was one night he found out where their ship was. He sent his ships in. The crew was all drunk. And he attacked the boat. Now, as the stories go and as they were written, the entire crew of men were drunk and had no chance of defending the ship. But there were two individuals on that ship who put up a fight and fought, not till the end because they weren't killed, but fought until fighting they were just outnumbered. And who were they? They were the women. And yes, there was actually another woman on this ship. Her name was Mary Read, but we're not going to talk too much about Mary Read. But there was another woman on the ship that Jack and Anne stole as part of the crew. And there was some interesting relationships there between Anne and Mary, and Jack and the crew. It was a very interesting boat. Very interesting. But the men were all drunk, and Anne and Mary fought to the bitter end in order to defend their boat and their freedom from Governor Woodes Rogers. But unfortunately, they were definitely outmatched, as far as they were outnumbered. There was too many of them. They were outmatched, and they lost. All the crew that survived was taken back for proceedings in New Providence Island or Nassau. Jack Rackham and the males of the crew were found guilty of high seas piracy and treason, and they were hung like most pirates were back then, and displayed for all to see until their bodies rot, to deter others from being pirates. Yeah, that worked real well for you guys. Good job, British. Good job. Yep. Let's hang the pirates out for everyone to see, and that'll stop other pirates. It didn't, just encouraged them. But here's where it gets interesting. Anne and Mary said that they were pregnant. Now, it's a decent little story if you don't want to be hung for high seas piracy and treason. But it was also illegal for them to give capital punishment or death to a pregnant woman. So what they locked Mary and Anne in jail. And the thought was, well, if you're pregnant, in 9 months from now, or however many months, you'll give birth, and that'll prove that you were pregnant and that we made the right decision. But if in 9 months from now you don't give birth, guess what? You lied, and we're going to hang you anyway. While they were in prison, unfortunately, Mary did die. So she did die in prison, did not give birth to a child, but did die in prison. Anne did also not give birth in prison. However, because of her wealthy lawyer of a father, who we talked about in the very beginning, or again, see, this is where things get a little interesting. Or she found a way to escape. But either way, one storyline takes us back to Charleston, where Anne escaped prison or was sent back to her father because he was a wealthy man and he was known in Charleston. It was a perk of being wealthy and known. And this branch of the story takes us through not an Anne Bonny ending, but a fairy tale ending, where Anne was back in Charleston. She married again. She had many children, and she lived for another 60 years, dying at the age of roughly 84. Now, seems like a nice Disney fairy tale to one of the most notorious and really interesting pirates of the golden age of piracy. Did it happen that way? We don't know. We honestly don't know. There are breadcrumb trails in history that say that happened, but there's also another breadcrumb trail. And this sounds more like Anne Bonny. Dying in prison in 1733 at the age of 35. That sounds more like Anne Bonny. Not going back to a life of being married and beholden to her husband, having children, sitting on the porch, drinking lemonade and dying at a ripe old age of 84. That doesn't sound like the Anne Bonny that we've learned in this story. But there are records in New Providence Island, or today, Nassau, that do show the death of one Anne Bonny in the city of New Providence Island. However, there were other people also named Anne Bonny back then. So, no one knows where Anne Bonny died. No one knows what her life looked like after she was put in prison. Personally, I think she tried to escape and died in prison. That seems more like an Anne Bonny thing to do. But it's a very interesting ending to a story of a character that pretty much everyone knows the name Anne Bonny. Anyone who loves pirates has heard of Anne Bonny before. And I just personally, since we don't know out there, we've got those two paths, right? We've got historical information and fact on both sides. I'm going to lean more towards who Anne Bonny was. And I would say that Anne Bonny probably died in prison. That Anne Bonny that died in prison in city records, I'm going to guess was the infamous and notorious pirate Anne Bonny. At least that's what I'm going to tell myself, just to complete that pirate narrative until maybe more historical facts come out. But we do not know where Anne Bonny died. We do not know where she was buried. We do not know any of that information. All that we know what was written down about her and her life, I just shared with you. And it's an amazing story. It's absolutely amazing because here's the thing that why I'm so interested in pirates is we see them as bloodthirsty. We see them oftentimes as evil and bad guys. But there's something about them that's very interesting to me, and that is freedom. They believed that breaking the mold of what was going on in society, they didn't believe society had it right, and they wanted to break that mold. And that's what they did down in New Providence Island, where they had the very first, I called it the Pirate Republic, right, of Nassau. They elected their leaders. They elected their pirate council members. They chose as a crew to vote for a captain, to vote for a first mate and things like that. Everyone had an equal voice. Now, not everyone got an equal share, of course, but everyone had an equal voice in their life. They had freedom, and they had a voice that they could say, this is how I want our ship to go. This is who I want running our ship. This is who we want in charge down here to set the rules and regulations of the area. It was honestly a republic. It was kind of like a democracy down there. And the rest of the world didn't have that. The other thing, women. We just talked about Anne Bonny. She broke away from an arranged marriage. She broke away from a wealthy father. She left her sailor husband because she didn't agree with him, and she became a pirate. That type of freedom for women didn't exist. And when we get into talking about Blackbeard, we'll learn that pirates also didn't like the concept of slavery, which was a huge trade back then and very important to the economy. They didn't like slavery. They targeted slave ships. Why? To get the slaves off there and set them free, take them back to the Bahamas, either set them out as maroons, where they could have their own life with people and not have to worry about being slaves, or the slaves would join as free men on ships. In fact, Blackbeard's first mate was a black man. So it's very interesting, and why I really like studying pirates is they were breaking the mold left, right, and center of how the society worked. They were against everything that society stood for, and that's why they were targeted. Yeah, they stole some stuff. Yeah, they sunk some ships. But ultimately, they weren't liked because they were the waves that were crashing into the walls of society and starting to crumble that concept of a throne and everyone else underneath it. A throne with a man's ass on it and everyone else underneath it. They were breaking that. They were chipping away at the walls of that concept. And the ripple effects across the rest of history, it was like a domino effect. They did it, then it started to pick up pace. You've got the American Revolution fighting against the crown, then you have a republic set up there. And it was just a domino effect throughout history. And sure, there were other groups throughout history that did it, but the pirates had their own way of doing it. And honestly, I think it was pretty cool. So I hope you enjoyed the story of Anne Bonny. Like I said, we will be doing more of these as we have time in the show with the Sea of Thieves news. But guys, thank you very much for taking your time to listen. Please drop a like, a comment, all those things on the YouTube video. If you haven't done so already, go to Pirate Talk Radio over on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. All those subscribes really help. But guys, until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. And I will see you next time on Pirate Talk Radio. Don't forget to get your Festive Legends tickets. I want to see you there.